Hare Krishna. We'll start with a discussion for the ongoing verses of Srimad Bhagavatam. Thank you very much for joining and participating in this wonderful ongoing discussion on Bhagavad Katha. So we'll, as usual, start with the Namaskaram, the Mangalacharan verses, and then we'll continue with our discussion. Narayanam namaskrityam naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jaya udhirayet Shranvatam skatha krishna punnashavana kirtanam hridayantastu bhadrani vidunoti sutsatam nashtaprayeshu bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavate uttam shloke bhaktir bhavatir naishtiki Mukam karoti vachanam pangam langate girim yatkripatamaham vande Shri Guru Dinataranam Paramanandam Madhavam Mahum Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunnavadi Paschachadeshatarane Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Hare Krishna. We had finished the first canto, first chapter in our last discussion, and we are proceeding with the first canto, second chapter. Before starting with the second chapter, I wanted to quickly go over what we did in the previous chapter. So one of the main things that came forth which is the continuity between the first chapter and subsequent chapters, are the 6 questions that are asked by Shaunakadi, by the sages of Naimisharanya, to Sutta Goswami, and these questions will form the evolving basis of the Bhagavatam. Most of the questions get answered in either the subsequent chapter or very soon, but we'll see that these questions form essentially the basis over which Bhagavatam evolves. So on the screen I have a summary of the 6 questions, and I'll of course share this with you, so you don't have to note it down. And in front of it is the verse that gives the answer, and like I said, that these answers are then subsequently expanded. So let's quickly recap the 6 questions. So the first question was, the sages asked that please explain to us in an easily understandable way what you have ascertained to be the absolute and ultimate good, the Shreya for people in general. So this is the 1.1.9. So ultimately they're asking that, tell us something that is for the benefit of people in general. And not just benefit, but they said ultimate good, Shreyas, for people in general. The answer to that, and for the sake of completeness, we look at the answer, and of course we'll discuss it when we come to that verse. Sutta Goswami will say that to execute devotional service. So the general welfare of jana, of people in general, jana shreyas, is through the execution of bhakti. So the second question that they ask is that there are many varieties of scriptures. Therefore, O sage, please select the essence of all the scriptures and explain it for the good of all living beings, that by such instruction their hearts may be fully satisfied. So first one, what is the ultimate good of people? The second is, what is the essence of all the scriptures. And the reason they ask is because we discussed it is people don't have the intelligence or the time to discuss the entirety of the scriptures. In addition to that, most of the scriptures are lost or will be lost. So reading the scriptures and extracting the essence is beyond the realm of people in the current day and age. So they are basically requesting Sutta Goswami to provide them with the essence of the scriptures. And the answer to that, which is in 127, is worship of Krishna. So it's similar to what was the answer in 126, which is execute devotional service, but it adds on to it in the sense that it connects the activities to specifically to Krishna. And one may argue that devotional service can only exist in relationship to Krishna, which is true, in which case this can be treated as something that is emphasis through repetition. But we'll see later on that there are certain subtle nuances that differentiate these two answers. So the third question that is asked is, O Sutta Goswami, you know for what purpose the personality of Godhead appear in the womb of Devaki as the son of Vasudeva. So essentially what the sages are requesting is Krishna Katha. They are not asking specifically the reasons for the descent of Krishna, but they are asking for everything around it. That why did Krishna appear? How did Krishna appear? What were the circumstances that led to Krishna's appearance? What did he do after he appeared? So they're basically asking Sutta Goswami for Krishna Katha. And the answer to this, which is in 1 to 34, and it is also essentially the answer to this is expanded in the 10th canto. The 10th canto in its entirety is an answer to the question because it talks about the pastimes of Krishna. So the short answer that appears in 1 to 34 is to reclaim his devotees, and the elaborate answer, the expanded answer, is all the pastimes that illustrate this activity, that how he appears in the lives of his pure and mixed devotees and encourages them to go back with him to Godhead. The fourth question, the Lord's transcendental acts are magnificent and gracious, and great learned sages like Narad sing of them. Please therefore speak to us who are eager to hear about the adventures he performs in his various incarnations. So according to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, this is an inquiry into the Leela avatars of Krishna, the pastime incarnations of Krishna. So just like 1 and 2 are similar to one another, there is similarity between 3 and 4 also. But they are both asking questions about Krishna's incarnations. But in the third question, the question is more about Krishna's Purushavatars. That how does he interact with the material world? And the fifth question, is more about his Leela avatars. That how does he manifest his different pastimes in this world? So this is answered in from 136 to 27, where Sutta Goswami will outline the prominent Leela avatars, and and then it is further expanded in the third canto. Okay, and now we come to the last question, which is, since Krishna, the absolute truth, the master of all mystic powers, has departed for his own abode, please tell us to whom the religious principles have now gone for shelter. So the sages are asking that now that Krishna has gone, along with Krishna, Dharma has gone. So where will the living entities take shelter? Who will they draw their sustenance from? And the answer to this appears in 1343, which is Srimad Bhagavatam. So it's important. It will be important and useful for us to memorize these questions and keep them in our mind and heart, so that as the Srimad Bhagavatam unfolds, we can see how these questions will successfully unfold. So, quick review of the first chapter, first canto of the Bhagavatam. So, from a thematic perspective, in the first chapter, as I said several times, is one of the more philosophically dense chapters, and we'll see that a lot of themes were presented here, which will be expanded later on. So Krishna was presented as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is right up front in the first verse, and this will get expanded this theme gets expanded in the second and third chapters of the first canto. Then Paradharma is introduced. This is again introduced in the first chapter, first verse, and this gets expanded in the second chapter, and specifically in second chapter, beginning from the sixth verse onwards. Then, in addition to Paradharma, Kaitav Dharma is also introduced, Dharma Projita Kaitava. So that will get expanded later on in the second chapter and the fifth chapter. Then in the first three verses, the general theme of eagerness to hear Krishna Katha is presented, and this we'll see will be more or less demonstrated through pastimes in the rest of the Bhagavatam. The importance of parampara is presented in the first chapter, and this is in the 5th to 8th verse, the importance of parampara, and from the 14th to 20th verse, Krishna's reciprocation is presented, which will get expanded in the 10th canto. We see when Krishna is dealing with his devotees. So these are the primary themes that are presented. From the perspective of the flow, so thematic is themes, and the themes could be intermingled. The flow is sequential. So from first verse to the 23rd verse. So from the perspective of flow, the first chapter, the first three verses were the Mangalacharan verses, the prelude to the Bhagavatam. After that, from verse 4 to 8, the sages glorified Sutta Goswami. So the qualifications of the speaker of the Bhagavatam were brought forward. From the next 5 verses, verse 9 to 13, the sages put forth 5 of their 6 questions to Sutta Goswami. Then 14 to 20, the sages introduce the other factors that are conducive to listening and realizing Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the holy name and Vaishnav Sangh. So they, through their own realizations, they share this, and they express an eagerness to hear Bhagavatam. And then 21 to 23, the sages once again glorify Sutta Goswami, and they ask the last of the 6 questions. So this is the chronological flow in the first chapter. So if you remember, when we were doing the canto-wise analysis of the Bhagavatam, we had said that in Canto 1, the first 6 chapters are essentially a conversation between Narad and Vyasadeva. So in a way, we can understand that this chapter is setting the basis for the conversation between Narad and Vyasadeva. So that ends the discussion on the first chapter, and we'll start with the second chapter now. So I'll just take a brief pause and see if there are any questions or clarifications on the first chapter. Okay, if not, then we will, with the blessings of the Vaishnavas, we will start with the second chapter, verse number 1. So before we go into the reading of the verses, let's just take a high-level glimpse of the second chapter. And as you know, this is something that is particularly useful when we are doing a systematic study, is to basically go top down and bottom up, to basically see where we are coming from in the larger context. And also when we are analyzing the verses or the words in the verses, we also see that how it fits in the overall message of the Bhagavatam. So the second chapter is known as Divinity and Divine Services. So the first chapter had ended with Sutta Goswami being asked 6 questions. In the second chapter, he will begin to address these questions. So as is expected, he will begin with giving obeisances to his guru, Srila Sukadeva Goswami, and thank the sages for giving him an opportunity to speak, because just as Krishna, hearing about Krishna is auspicious, speaking about Krishna is equally auspicious, and a guru is especially happy when the questions are relevant. So Sutta Goswami acknowledges the relevance of the question, especially in the current age of Kali, and then he begins to answer the questions. So as a prelude, he emphasizes on the importance of self-realization. That so he's kind of questions can be answered at many levels. If somebody asks you that what is the essence of all the scriptures, it could be dharma, artha, kama, moksha. That could be also a valid answer. It could be one of the atheistic philosophies that says that you eat, drink, and be merry, Charvak's philosophy. But Sutta Goswami, he wants to properly set the stage for his answers. So right away, he says that self-realization and devotion to Krishna are important. So now we can know that what is the realm in which his answers will be given, and then he'll expand on this. So then he talks about Krishna as the absolute truth, and he will talk about what is the potent way of connecting to Krishna and satisfying him, which is through the process of bhakti. So that's why you see the title of the chapter is Divinity and Divine Services. So he introduces divinity, which is Krishna, and he introduces bhakti, which is divine services. Then he will elaborate a little bit upon bhakti. He will talk about bhakti as being progressive from the stage of Shraddha all the way to prema. He gives a very quick synopsis. For those of you who've done Bhakti Shastri, have done this as part of your study of the Nectar of Devotion, and here he gives a brief synopsis, and then he talks about the position of Krishna being transcendental to the modes of material nature, and the fact that those who are serious about liberation will engage in these two things. They will engage in divine services to attain divinity, or they will engage in bhakti to attain Krishna. And finally, the chapter ends with Sutta Goswami further clarifying the position of Krishna as one who is off in the material world but not off the material world, who creates the modes of material nature but is transcendental to them. So that's a brief high-level summary of chapter 2. It is all about Krishna and bhakti. This chapter has some of the most quoted verses, important chapter. In terms of the chronological flow, the first 5 verses of the chapter are the Mangalacharan verses, Namaskaram verses, in which Sutta Goswami, he worships Sukadev Goswami and the other gurus in the parampara, and also he will glorify the sages in the 5th verse. Then verses 6 and 7 are answers to the first 2 questions of the sages, that what is the ultimate good of mankind and what is the essence of the scriptures. And these 2 verses will also frame the answer of what is dharma, specifically what is paradharma. So these 2 verses together define paradharma. So we had discussed that first 2 questions are similar because the answer to both these questions are enunciated in the definition of paradharma. In verses 8 to 10, Sukadev Goswami, having defined paradharma, will define Kaitab dharma, that what is dharma but not paradharma. So Kaitab dharma is not a dharma. It is dharma that is found in the Vedas. We discussed that when we discussed the 2nd chapter, the 1st chapter, 2nd verse. So here he'll talk a little bit more about the definition and symptoms of Kaitab dharma. And then he will follow that with a more detailed definition of Krishna. So verses 11 to 13. Verse 11 is the famous Vedanti Tattva Tattvidas, that the 3 aspects of Krishna. Verse 12 is how does one attain Krishna through bhakti, and verse 30 is what is the perfection of bhakti. Then verses 16 to 22 is progression of bhakti from Shraddha to Prem. Verses 23 to 29 is distinguishing Krishna from other shelters. So Sutta Goswami has presented Krishna as a shelter. Now he will say that Krishna is the only shelter. So he will distinguish them from the other shelters, primarily from the demigods. And 30 to 33 verse is the answer to the 3rd question, which is the Purush avatars. And 34, so this question he answers a little out of sequence. The verse 34, which is the last verse, is the answer to the 5th question, that why does the why does the incarnations of Krishna appear? The reason for the incarnations to appear. So now that we have a little bit of understanding of the lay of the land, we will start our discussion on the verses. So Canto 1, Chapter 2, Verse 1. Vyasuvacha iti samparshana samhashto vipranam ramaharshanam pratipujya vachastesham pravaktum upachakarane pravaktu upachakrame. Ugra Sharva, Sutta Goswami, the son of Romaharshan, being fully satisfied by the perfect questions of the Brahmans, thanked them and thus attempted to reply. So Sutta Goswami, we will see that in these 4 verses, will give obeisances to the parampara. So he will first give obeisances to his guru, and then to the ascending parampara. So in this verse we see that Sutta Goswami, we see 2 things that he is doing. He is thanking the sages, and we also see that his own satisfaction is appearing. So the verse essentially reflects the importance and the glory of spiritual inquiry. That the sages had questions that were relevant, and Sutta Goswami is acknowledging it by thanking it, and also that he is feeling satisfied about it. So the questions are known as samprashna. So the prefix sam means Prabhupada translates it as perfect. So samprashna is they are perfect questions. Why? Because they satisfy the requirements of a perfection of inquiry. They are asked in a mood of humility. They are asked for the purpose of making spiritual benefit. They are for the benefit of the speaker, for the audience, and also for the person asking the question. So they are for the benefit of everybody. So that is why we see that Sutta Goswami is Pratipuja. So puja means to glorify, Pratipuja means to glorify in return. So he is glorified, he's feeling this sense of gratitude for giving him an opportunity to do Krishna Katha. So we see this trend of gratitude to those who give you an opportunity. And Sutta Goswami is thanking the sages, and we will see that he will also thank those who have empowered him to speak. Just like initially we see that when Shaunak Rishi started asking questions, they were glorifying Sutta Goswami. So the same mood, we'll see that Sutta Goswami will glorify his ascending parampara. So one of the points that is made over here, which will get elaborated later on, that the glorification of devotees should be more than just words. The glorification should be a little bit more specific. It should enunciate that what is it that makes the devotee worthy of glorification. What are the activities? What are the impact of the activities that the devotee has done that makes the glorification pertinent? So we sometimes and even though it is good, sometimes we say, Prabhu, you're good, you're so great, but many times it becomes lip service. and it just becomes mechanical. Many years ago, this is many years ago, I was watching the skit put by some young kids in New Vrindavan, and they were kind of making, they're kind of in a kiddish way, they were making fun of this mood of excessive glorification within ISKCON, and they had written this script where one devotee goes to another and says that I'm your humble servant of your lotus feet, and the other person says, I'm the servant of the dust of your lotus feet, and the other person says, no, but I'm the service of the dust of your lotus feet. So in this way, it was like I said, it was more funny, but to some extent, it was also capturing this sense of glorifying with more substance in it. It is more satisfying. It is more satisfying to the devotee who is receiving the glorification. Many times in the classes when we introduce, so we also introduce the speaker with a short bio. This person is a disciple of Srila Prabhupada, has been preaching in this area, is a GBC, has done this, that, and it just sets the right mood of associating with the devotee. Okay, so we will now continue with the second verse. If I can figure out how to get to it. Yeah. Sutta Vacha. Okay, this is a slightly different meter. Yam pravajantam anupetam apetya kritam dvapayana viraha katarahu java putreti tanmayataya tarvo binedas tam sarvabhuta hridayam munimanatosmi. Translation. Srila Sutta Goswami said, let me offer my respectful obeisances unto that great sage Sukadev Goswami, who can enter the hearts of all. When he went away to take up the renounced order of life sannyas, leaving home without undergoing reformation by the sacred thread or the ceremonies observed by the higher caste, his father Vyasadeva, fearing separation from him, cried out, O my son, indeed, only the trees which were absorbed in the same feelings of separation echoed in response to the bereaved father. So this is the first time that Sutta Goswami is speaking, Sutta Vacha, the first time that he is speaking. Earlier on, we had seen his appearing in a more indirect way. In the third verse of the first chapter, Nigamakalpataror Galitam Phalam Sukhamukhad Amratam Dravya Samyutam. So there, Sukha is mentioned, but here we see Sukha Uvacha. So, well, it's Sutta Uvacha, but he is introducing Sukadev directly. Sorry about that. So I just wanted to take this opportunity to speak a little bit about Sukadev Goswami, and we'll do that as we go through our discussion of the Bhagavatam, because the Bhagavatam is a window into the larger body of the Vedas, which, frankly speaking, we don't have the time, or I don't have the understanding to expand it. But to the extent that Srila Prabhupada has given us windows into the various aspects of the Vedas, we will use the Srimad Bhagavatam to delve a little deeper. So this is more because we will be intimately associating with Sukadev Goswami for a long time. It would help for us to understand who he is, who he actually is. So Sukadev Goswami is the son of Srila Vyasadeva. So Vyasadeva married a chaste lady by the name of Vatika, also known as Pinjal. So Vatika is the daughter of Jabali Rishi. So for those of you who are from India, especially from Madhya Pradesh, there is a city called Jabalpur, which is actually been named after the ashram of Jabali Rishi. So Jabali Rishi is an ancient sage. He appears in Ramayana, and he was one of the advisors to Maharaj Dashrath. And he also speaks in Ramayana that when Bharat went into the forest to convince Lord Ram to come back, when he had gone for exile in Chitrakoot, then different personalities tried to convince Lord Ram to come back. Bharat had tried to convince, and Lord Ram refused. Then Jabali Rishi spoke, and at that time he spoke an atheistic philosophy. He spoke the philosophy of Charvak Rishi, which is known as the Lokayat philosophy. So as we know, the Vedas have the Vedas, then they have the Shad Darshans. Then there are, in addition to the Shad Darshans, there is basically 4 atheistic philosophies that are outside the body of Vedas and the Shad Darshan, but are loosely based on some combination of the Shad Darshan. One of them is Lokayat. The other 3 is the Buddhism, the Jainism, and the Ajivika philosophy. So the Lokayat philosophy basically says it's a hedonistic philosophy, that the purpose of life is to enjoy. So Jabali Rishi uses this philosophy. It was propounded by Charvak Rishi. So he uses this philosophy to tell Ram that don't worry about what Dashrath has said, don't worry about words and all these vows and all that. You are having the opportunity to rule a kingdom, just go ahead and enjoy. And Lord Ram actually very strongly criticized. He said, I do not know how did you become advisor to my father. You are not, you don't deserve. And at that point, Jabali Rishi, he backs off. And then he says that even I don't believe in it, but I was just saying, so he was just saying it out of love of Lord Ram. That when you try to convince somebody, then you use everything. So he was trying to use that. And Vashishta also says, yes, I know that he is not inclined in this way. So his daughter, Pinchala or Vatika, was married to Srila Vyasadeva and living in the ashram. They have Sukadeva Goswami as their son. So Sukadeva Goswami is the son of Vyasa and Vatika. A little bit about who was Sukadeva Goswami. Now, to be open about this, the antecedents of Sukadeva Goswami are little bit unclear, because it is not explicitly mentioned anywhere who is Sukadeva Goswami. Several acharyas and several sannyasis or preachers in ISKCON consider Sukadeva Goswami to be Sukha, the parrot of Srimati Radharani. And then there are other Goswamis who consider that Sukadeva Goswami was an empowered jiva, that he was empowered by Krishna to speak the Bhagavatam, and that was it. But he does not have any position in Krishna Lila. He does not have a position in Vrindavan. So I was not sure how to. So that's why I presented both aspects of it, so that if this comes for discussion, it is one of those things. Prabhupada did not say that Sukadeva Goswami was the parrot of Srimati Radharani, but there are others who have said. So I wanted to. For the sake of discussion, if we assume that Sukadeva Goswami is indeed Sukha, so Radharani has 2 parrots, Sukha and Sari. And Sukha is a male parrot, blue in color and favorable to Krishna. Sari is a female parrot parrot, she's black in color, and she's favorable to Srimati Radharani. So one of the acharyas who do believe this connection is Govinda Adhikari, and he has composed this humorous song called Vrindavan Vilasani Raya Madar. It's a Bengali. So it's a conversation between Sukha and Sari, and I wanted to share it with you. It just gives a glimpse into the spiritual world, regardless of the connection between Sukha the parrot and Sukadev Goswami the speaker. So the conversation goes as follows. Sukha says, "My Krishna is the enchanter of Cupid." Sari says, "Only when Radha is on his left side, otherwise he is just a Cupid." Sukha says, "My Krishna lifted up Govardhan hill." Sari says, "My Radha empowered him to do so, otherwise he could not do it." Sukha says, "My Krishna wears a peacock feather on his head." Sari says, "My Radha Rani's name is on the feather, just go and see." Sukha says, my Krishna's crown leans to the left." Sari says, "Yes, to touch the feet of Radharani." Sukha says, "My Krishna is the life and soul of Mother Yashoda." Sari says, "My Radha is the life and soul of life. Otherwise, life is void." Sukha says, "My Krishna is the Chintamani of the world." Sari says, "My Radha is the giver of the divine love, and even your Krishna knows this." Sukha says, "My Krishna plays the flute." Sari says, "It calls Radha's name, otherwise we would not hear it." Sukha says, "My Krishna is the spiritual master of the world." Sari says, "My Radha is the Kalpatru tree, the desire tree. Otherwise, who is the spiritual master?" Sukha says, "My Krishna is the beggar of love." Sari says, "My Radha is the waves of love." Sukha says, "My Krishna stays under a Kadamba tree." Sari says, "Only because my Radha comes and goes. Otherwise, he would not stay there." Sukha says, "My Krishna is the black of the world." Sari says, "My Radha is the light of the world. Otherwise, the black cannot be seen." Sukha says, "My Krishna is the servant of Radhika." So Sukha has accepted defeat now. He says, "My Krishna is the servant of Radhika." Sari says, "You spoke the truth, as his flute is the witness. Otherwise, he'd be a beggar." Sukha says, "My Krishna is the life and soul of the world." Sari says, "My Radha is the cool, sweet breeze. Otherwise, life cannot remain." Sukha says, "My Krishna is the life and soul of the universe." Sari says, "My Radha is the giver of life. Otherwise, life cannot remain." Sukha and Sari ended their argument filled with love. They chanted Hari Hari Bol and flew off to Vrindavan. So when I was reading this, I just thought that it brings a little bit of levity to otherwise philosophical discussion. And also, if you read it a little bit more carefully, you'll see that there's a lot of philosophical gems that are embedded in this exchange. So in the Anand Vrindavan Champu, Kavi Karnapur, he states that Sukha is very dear to both Radha and Krishna. And then as per some acharyas, at the onset of Kali Yuga, Sukha descended to the material world to manifest the Srimad Bhagavatam. So this is the part that is a little bit, it's a little bit disputed. So in the Moksha Dharma Parva of Mahabharata, in the Brahma Vaivat Puran and the Skand Puran, so this part is now scriptural. So regardless of who Sukadev was in his previous life, how did Sukadev Goswami get the Bhagavatam? One of the ways that he got the Bhagavatam. So Lord Shiva and Parvati Devi were having a conversation, and Sukha was, the parrot was sitting close by. So Lord Shiva was reciting the Bhagavatam to Parvati Devi, and he asked Parvati Devi to keep responding through an affirmative sound so that he knew that she was still paying attention. So as Lord Shiv became ecstatic in the recitation of the Bhagavatam, Parvati Devi, she became drowsy and she fell off to sleep. So Sutta, he was a little concerned that Lord Shiva will stop the recitation of Bhagavatam, and he did not want it. So being a parrot, he could imitate voices. So in the voice of Parvati Devi, he kept acknowledging that yes, I'm hearing. And in this way, Lord Shiva spoke the entire Bhagavatam, and Sutta, he heard the entire Bhagavatam. Sukha, he heard the entire Bhagavatam. Then at this point, Lord Shiva, he turned and he saw that Parvati Devi was sleeping, and it was a parrot who was hearing the Bhagavatam, so he got angry. And he was also concerned that the parrot has got access to this transcendental knowledge, and like a parrot, it might repeat it without understanding. So he picked up his trident, and then he ran after the parrot to kill it. So in fear, Sukadev, he ran and he entered the ashram of Srila Vyasadeva, and through the mouth he entered into the body of Vatika. So Lord Shiva, still not satisfied, he wanted to kill Sukha in the womb of Vatika, but Srila Vyasadeva, he dissuaded him. And he said, look, the falstuti of the Bhagavatam is that the person becomes freed of death. So if he has heard the Bhagavatam, you cannot kill him. And so Lord Shiva was pacified, and then he left. So Sukadev Goswami, he stayed in the womb of Vatika, and again there are different numbers, 12 years or 16 years, but for a long time, until Vyasadeva started imploring him that please come out. It's really uncomfortable situation for you to be in the womb for such a long time. So from within the womb, Sukadev Goswami said no. He said, if I come out, I will be influenced by Maya. So Vyasadeva said, don't worry, I give you the assurance that you will not be. And Sukadev Goswami said, but I don't believe you, because you yourself are under the influence by the modes. How can one drowning person assure another drowning person? So then Vyasadeva said, who will help to assure you? Because you can't just stay in the womb forever. So Sukadev Goswami asked for assurance from Krishna. So Vyasadeva went all the way to Dwarka, and this was when Krishna was doing his manifest pastimes. Krishna came, he assured Sukadev Goswami, and then Krishna left. And then on the assurance of Sukadev Goswami, of Krishna, Sukadev Goswami came out, and as soon as he came out, he left. He did not wait to greet his parents, did not wait for any samskars to be done. When children are born, there are different samskars that are done. So he did not wait for anything, but simply ran away. And Vyasadeva followed him, trying to call him back, but Sukadev Goswami did not pay any attention. So in the Brahma Vaivat Purana, it is also said that Vyasadeva, he, in an effort to get Sukadev Goswami out, had recited the Chatur Shloki Srimad Bhagavatam to him, so which is where he first heard the Bhagavatam. So the Chatur Shloki is 2nd Canto, 9th chapter, verses 33 to 36. So this is about the birth of Sukadev Goswami. So Sukadev Goswami, he was an impersonalist in the beginning, and he himself has admitted that. So this is in the 2nd Canto, 2.1.9, where he shares that he was an impersonalist to begin with, but he was later attracted by the Bhagavatam. So when the disciples of Vyasadeva told that Sukadev Goswami is living in the jungles, then he had them recite various verses from the Bhagavatam, and some verses that Sukadev Goswami heard, it captured his heart, and he came running back to Srila Vyasadeva to hear the entire Bhagavatam. And then as soon as Vyasadeva had recited the Bhagavatam, he got up and left again. So according to Samacharyas, there are two particular verses that inspired Sukadev Goswami to come and hear the Bhagavatam. One of them appears in 3rd Canto, 2nd chapter, verse 23. It's the Avabaki Yanstan Kalaputam. So this is the verse that glorifies Krishna as one who gave Putana the position of his mother. Even though she came Stana Kalaputam, even she had smeared poison on her breast. Baki is that she was a witch, but Krishna gives her the position of his mother. The second verse appears in the 10th canto, chapter 21, verse 5. It is Bharapitam Natvara Vapu. So this describes Krishna when he returns in the evening after herding the cows. So it's a very beautiful poetic description of Krishna with a flower on his ear, with dust on his body. And it is said that these two verses, they talk about the four qualities that are exclusive to Krishna. So as we know that only Krishna has 64 qualities, and four qualities, which is Venu, which is the flute, Rupa, which is the form, Prema, which is Krishna's love, and Leela, which is Krishna's wonderful pastimes. These are four qualities that are exclusive to Krishna. So when Sukadeva Goswami heard about these qualities that he had not heard from attributed any time before, he came running back to Srila Vyasadeva. So Sukadeva Goswami was a lifetime brahmachari, but there is another Sukadeva Goswami. When the genealogical charts are being talked about, there is another Sukadeva Goswami who married and had a daughter. So Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport of 198 that this is the duplicate Sukadeva Goswami. That because Vyasadeva and Vatika were insisting that Sukadeva Goswami enters Grahastha, so by his mystic powers, he creates a duplicate of himself, gives it to his parents, and then leaves. So this is the duplicate Sukadeva Goswami, who was essentially Sukadeva Goswami. But he marries, he has a wife, and then he has a child and a lineage after that. Srila Prabhupada also states in the purport, Sukadeva Goswami, the famous son and disciple of Srila Vyasadeva, learned from him first the Mahabharata, then the Srimad Bhagavatam. Sukadeva Goswami recited at one point 1.4 million verses of Mahabharata in the councils of the Gandharva, Yakshas and Rakshasas, and he recited Srimad Bhagavatam for the first time in the presence of Maharaj Parikshit. So Sukadeva Goswami is considered to be a Mahabhagavat. He's also one of the 12 Mahajans. Some of the other names that he has is Vyasaki, Brahmarata, Badrayani, as one derived from his father. And in the Devi Puran, there is another pastime that is explained about Sukadeva Goswami, but we will not go into that because, for one, the understanding we have from Jiva Goswami is that what has been given in the Sattvic Puranas, it overrides what is given in the Tamasic or the Rajasic Puran. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur also explained them as Kalpabhed. That maybe both the pastimes are correct, but happened in different kalpas. So, this is a brief bio of Sukadeva Goswami. So one of the things that we see over here is that as soon as he was born, he took sannyas, the youngest sannyasi. So I wanted to have a little bit of discussion about sannyas also. Not that it's an encouragement or aspiration for us to become sannyasis, but it is more so because the activity of sannyas is a very strong concomitant factor in devotional service. And it is also where we repose a lot of our faith in. A lot of our gurus are sannyasis, a lot of the previous Vaishnava acharyas are sannyasis. And so wanted to talk a little bit about sannyas, and then looking at the time after that, we'll stop for question and answers. So the word sannyas literally means san, which means complete or everything, and nyas, which means putting down. So sannyas means putting down everything, which is the renounced order of life, where you may have accumulated a lot of wealth or family, but as part of sannyas, you put it away. So Srila Prabhupada has a very nice purport explaining sannyas in the 5th canto, 1st chapter, verse 27. And he explains more about sannyas. I'm not going to read the purport, but I'll paraphrase. That Prabhupada explains that there are 4 stages of sannyas. The first stage is kutichak, where the person, he lives in a house, in a kuti in the jungle, and he cooks. He's sannyasi, so he has left his family, left his wife, but he cooks for himself. So kutichak means living in a kuti. So he lives in a kutir, he cooks for himself, and he practices renunciation and detachment. So that's the neophyte stage of sannyas. Second stage is bahudak. So bahudak is when the sannyasi stops cooking in the house, but he starts going and doing madhukari. So as per the sannyas Upanishad, the sannyasi goes to no more than 5 houses. He begs for some uncooked food and he eats it uncooked. If he does not get any food in the 5 houses, then he will fast that day. If he gets sufficient food in the first house, then he will not go to any more houses. But the mood of the sannyasi now is that of depending on Krishna for alms. The next stage is parivracharya. So sometimes we use that term for glorifying Srila Prabhupada. So at this point, the sannyasi, he gives up his house also. So not only does he not cook, he does not have a fixed residence. So parivracharya means that he wanders. He wanders around. He survives by madhukari, and he visits holy places and he preaches. And the highest stage of sannyas is Paramhamsa. So Paramhamsa is at the stage where he is fully involved in the study of the scriptures, fully involved in devotional service and in preaching. So why was Vyasadeva lamenting that Sukadeva Goswami had left at the time of birth? That's because he had not gone through the purificatory rituals. So this gives us an interesting aspect into what actually comprises caste system. That Sukadeva Goswami was born of Brahman parents. Vyasadeva was a Brahman. His father was Parashar Muni, and he's often glorified as a Brahman. So why was Vyasadeva concerned that Sukadeva Goswami did not undergo any purificatory rituals? This is because the Vedas do not have any support for birth-based caste system. So Vyasadeva did not think that Sukadeva Goswami is my son, I'm a Brahman, so he is automatically a Brahman. In fact, he was thinking the opposite, that Sukadeva Goswami is a Shudra and he has just left, so he will continue to be a Shudra, which is why he was lamenting. So this birth-based caste system was originally introduced by the Brahmanas, and they did it to preserve their own exclusive position. And in current times, of course, we know that the caste system is more imposed by the lower caste, the Shudras, because it gives them reservation, at least in India, it gives them reservations, jobs, etc. But there is no Vedic support for the caste system. The understanding is that by birth everybody is a Shudra, but through various ways one gets elevated. So in Digdarshani Tika, this is Sanatana Goswami's commentary on the Bhagavatam, he says that Nranam Sarvesham Eva Dvijatam Viprata. Any person of any status, if properly initiated with correct mantras, can become a Brahman. It does not say by birth, but more than initiation by mantras, it is the conduct. So in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Chaturvanya Maya Sreshta Guna Karma Vibhagasha. So it is by your gunas, by your nature, and karma, by your activities. So similarly, in the Mahabharata, the statement is made, Na yonir na api samskara na shrutam na chaha santati karmani dvijatasvasya pratameva tu karanam. Neither birth nor samskars nor learning nor progeny are the qualifications to be a Brahman. Only Brahmanical conduct is the basis of Brahmanical status. So focusing more on the Brahmins, but also general understanding of the caste, that one acquires a particular varna and ashram based on one's activities. So in the current day and age, there is no facilities for mantras, there's no facilities for understanding what your conduct is. So that's why in the Skanda Purana, it is said that Kalau Shudra Sambhavate. In this age of Kali, everybody is a Shrud. So by nature, everybody is born a Shudra, and in the age of Kali, everybody stays a Shudra. So in the Rig Veda, it is said that Janman Jayate Shudra Samskarat Dvija Uchyate Veda Pathat Bhade Vipra Brahma Janati Iti Brahmana. By birth, one is a Shudra. By purificatory processes, one becomes a Dvija. By the study of the Vedas, one becomes a Vipra. And one who knows Brahman becomes a Brahman. So by birth, everybody is a Shudra. And through different samskars, then one becomes a Dvija. So Dvija is twice born. So one is a seminal birth, and the other is the birth that you get during the time of the Upanayan. When you get when your spiritual master gives you the Brahman thread, then you get the second birth. That is why you're called the Dvija. And then the spiritual master also gives you the Pancha Samskars. So the Pancha Samskars are Tapa, Pundra, Nam, Mantra, and Yagya. So this is still present there in Sri Vaishnavas, where so this is more Smrta, that at the time of your initiation, the spiritual master will take a symbol of Vishnu and burn it in your body. So it's not like really painful, but they'll heat it and they will press it on your body so that thing remains. Now most of them don't even do that; they just write the name on the body. So that is Tapa. Pundra is Tilak, that you get to apply a certain kind of tilak that identifies you with a particular parampara. The third is Nam, that you get Harinam, which means two things: that you get a name identifying you as a servant of Krishna, and also you get to chant the name of Krishna. The fourth is mantra. You get a Guru mantra. In our case, it's the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. In Sri Vaishnavas, it's Om Namo Narayana. In some cases, it's secret mantras. And the last thing is Yagya, which is worship of deities. Typically, Shaligram Shala. In our case, many times Gaur Nitai. And so, through this process, a person becomes a Dvija, or a twice born. So once the Dvija has taken shelter of the Guru and they study the Vedas, then they become Vipras. So Vipras are expert in Karma Kand, and they typically read the Samhitas in the Vedas, which talk about Karma Kand, and Vipras would typically take the position of Purohits. So Purohits is Purnahit, that one who is doing complete benefit of their client, so to speak. So families would have Purohits. In Mahabharata, we see that when the Pandavas were in the forest, then they had Dhaumya as the Purohit. He was the one who was doing all the purificatory samskars. And then as the Vipras advance even further, they study the Upanishads, the Brahma Sutras, and then they become Brahmins. So we have Shudra, we have Dvija, we have Vipra, and then we have Brahman. And Bhakti Siddhanta says that above the Brahmins are the Vaishnavas that study the science of Krishna. Now, on the other hand, it is said that one who is a Brahmin by birth, if he does not follow Brahmanical conduct, he is considered to be worse than a Shudra. So in the Manusmriti, it is said that a Brahman who instead of studying the Vedas engages himself in any other pursuits, being keen for honors, money and worldly advantages, becomes a Shudra together with his whole family in this very life. So these various samskars, and that is why Srila Vyasadeva is lamenting, these various samskars, they help to create impressions in the mind that are conducive to making spiritual advancements. Like Vivaha samskar. When you formally accept, the man and the woman accept each other, then the Vivaha, the marriage, it takes on a gravity of itself. Similarly, the Diksha Samskar, that Srila Prabhupada will many times say that to be my disciple, you have to follow my instructions. But still, he would have the Diksha Samskar, because there is a fire yajna, there is the giving of the tulsi beads, there is the giving of the holy name, the acceptance of the vows, and that creates a strong impression that one maintains. The Prabhupada would say one who has simply taken Diksha but is not following my instructions is a disciple in name only. But on the other hand, one who is following my instruction, whether he has taken Diksha or not, is to be considered to be my disciple. Now, Sukadeva Goswami, he did not need to go through these samskars because he was self-realized from birth. And he did not belong to any particular varna or ashram because he's a Vaishnav. He's a liberated Vaishnav, and Vaishnavas, they stand above all these samskars. Now, it does not mean that we deride them. We see that we ourselves go through samskars, but we are not dependent on them. We use this to nourish our bhakti, but our bhakti is not hostage to this samskars. So Sutta Goswami is glorified in the verse by Sutta Goswami. Sutta Goswami calls Sukadeva Goswami as Sarva Bhuta Hridayam, entering into the heart of all living entities. So how is that possible? What kind of mystic powers he has to enter into the hearts of all living entities? So the mystic power that he has is devotion to Krishna. Because Krishna is present in the heart of all living entities as Paramatma, and he's connected to Krishna, so that he is Sarva Bhuta Hridaya. Also, he's entering into the heart of all living entities through the ears. That Krishna Katha, it comes in through the ears and it takes root in our heart. Because Sukadeva Goswami, he spoke Srimad Bhagavatam. When Bhagavatam enters into our ears, then Krishna appears in our heart. That's how he is Sarva Bhuta Hridayam. So when Sukadeva Goswami was walking away, Vyasadeva was calling after him, and the verse says that only the trees echoed in reply. So Jiva Goswami, he indicates in his commentary, and this is the Acharyas, they're churning the verses for more and more realization. So it says Vyasadeva was deeply disappointed. But the trees also shared the same disappointment that Vyasadeva had, because the nature of a devotee is that he is dear to everyone, not just your father, not just your wife, but a devotee is dear to everyone. So when Vyasadeva was calling out and missing Sukadeva Goswami, even the trees were missing Sukadeva Goswami. So they were also echoing his call. Jiva Goswami also says that the echo of the trees was the response of Krishna to assure Srila Vyasadeva. So this is the end of the second verse. I'll stop here and see if there are any questions or comments. So we spoke. So we spoke a little bit about the biography of Sukadeva Goswami in this verse. We also use the opportunity to talk a little bit about sannyas. What does sannyas actually mean? The various stages of sannyas. And we also spoke about varnashram, that how does one acquire a particular varna? What are the various stipulations? What does the scripture say about it? And in the end, we glorified the position of Sukadeva Goswami. So, any questions or comments?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, here Sarangada.
Hi, Sharan Prabhu.
Yeah, just a question. Sukadeva Goswami, he was naked and also has a blue body. Any particular reason why he has a blue body?
So I don't have the scriptural reference to that, but from what I remember hearing in a lecture was because he was so dear to Krishna, he had bodily features like Krishna. So not only did he have a blue body, but he was exquisitely handsome. He had lotus eyes, long arms, and perfectly shaped body, very similar to Krishna. We see that in Uddhav also. That Uddhav is a very, very dear devotee of Krishna. When he goes to Vrindavan, the gopis actually mistake Uddhav for Krishna. So Prabhupada gives the example of how when one comes close to Krishna, it's like iron coming into fire. And the iron becomes fire. So similarly, devotees who very strongly meditate on Krishna, associate with him through word or thought, they acquire qualities like Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you. Any other questions? I'm not going to do the next verse because we are already at 9:15, and the verse will definitely take more than a couple of minutes. So I'll stop the discussion over here, and then we can use the rest of the time for discussion.
You have a question on the chat.
Yes. Sorry, Hare Krishna. What is it we have to observe from the qualities of a sannyas?
Okay, thank you, Prabhu. Very nice question. So this is actually there's a very actually nice paper written. I think it was a speech given by Bhakti Siddhant, which was later on made into a paper called Vaishnav K. Who's a Vaishnav? And the discussion was more not in terms of sannyas, but Brahman versus Vaishnav. That which is higher? And Bhakti Siddhant starts with the glorification of the Brahman. And then he talks about the qualities that make the Brahman special, and then he shows that how those qualities appear in a Vaishnav. This point is also discussed in one of the subsequent verses. So I'll talk briefly about it. And like I said, I promise you this will be talked in much more details in this chapter only, in one of the subsequent verses. But the essential quality of sannyasi is vairagya, is renunciation. The essential quality of a Vaishnav is yukta vairagya, is to use the renunciation in the service of Krishna. So whatever qualities that are developed, whether it is through varna or ashram, whether the person is a Brahman or in varna or in sannyasi in ashram, the devotee, he uses them to enhance the service to Krishna. And Prabhupada then makes the point that regardless of the varna and ashram, any quality that the devotee has, they will try and dovetail it in the service of Krishna. But specifically the point that you made between sannyasi and Vaishnava, that point Prabhupada explains is when we read the Nectar of Devotion, it is the distinction between Vairagya and Yukta Vairagya. That a sannyasi will give up the use of everything, a devotee will give up the personal everything. So a sannyasi will not use, a devotee will use, but not for the self, but for the Krishna. There was once there is actually a lot of noise. I would just request that you a little bit more considerate. If you can mute your own phones, it's not a lot of endeavor. And firstly, I would assume that if you're attending the study on the Bhagavatam, my hope is and my request is that you do it in a more sattvic environment, where the focus is more on listening and hearing. But if for some reason you cannot do that, then at least maintain some kind of Vaishnava etiquette of not creating unnecessary disturbance for other people. So it just spoils the way that the interaction is going. So my request, please keep that in mind for the future. Prem Kishore Prabhu, getting back to your question again, because he specifically asked between sannyasi and Vaishnava, Prabhupada explains that as the distinction between Vairagya and Yukta Vairagya. And I was going to actually share a small pastime that sometime, one of the time, Prabhupada's disciples showed him a picture of sannyasi in some different sampradaya. And there was somebody standing with a plate of money, and the sannyasi had his hands behind his back. And the caption said he has nothing to do. He doesn't want anything to do with anything material. So when Prabhupada looked at it, and he laughed and he said, I'll take all the money and use it in the service of Krishna. So that's the difference between sannyasi. A sannyasi would renounce the material things. A devotee will renounce the attachment for the material thing, but they will try and use them in the service of Krishna. Does that help, Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhuji, thank you very much.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Dandot pranams.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Prabhu, I have a two-part question. One is one of the Sri Vaishnava Brahmin, he says one should not tell Om Namo Narayana like that in public. It is like Anushtana. It is it is basically a problem avoiding Anushtana. He is for example, Sri Ramanujacharya is a Anushtana Sreshta. How 120 years also he was following Anushtana very perfectly. How could he go and proclaim that in the Tirukosti your temple, that how can he would have told the name but not the full mantra? That is one part, Prabhu. The other part is in ISKCON we have Brahmin initiations based on the seniority. Not all the Brahmin initiated devotees probably may go through the Brahma Sutras. At least just for example, in ISKCON we have Baladev Vidya Bhushana Gaudiya, his commentary. So we don't go through read the Brahma Sutras, all that. At least basic understanding, or not even by hearting, at least some basic understanding. Without that, we get Brahman initiation. How do we understand that?
Okay, thank you, Prabhu. For some reason this thing is making weird noises. I hope it'll go away. Okay, it has. Good. So the first part, Prabhu, the point that you make is valid. In the Vedas, it is said that I forget the reference, but it is said that there are 4 things that should be hidden, and I'm not sure if it was 4, but let's go through it. One is your guru. The second is your guru mantra. The third is your japmala, and the fourth is your bead bag. So these are the 4 things that should not be revealed in public. And there are certain sampradayas that actually follow that, sub-sampradayas that actually follow that quite religiously. I remember when I was in Vrindavan, I met a Western devotee. He was an Nimbarki. And in ISKCON, it's a pretty common conversation. We asked, what's your Guru Maharaj's name? And he did not want to share that with me. And basically, he said that we don't like to share. So there is some credence to that. The compensating or the mitigating discussion over there is that the Vaishnavas, they take more risks on behalf of Krishna than what even the Vedas permit them to do. So there is a certain reason why these prohibitions are there. So you gave the example of Sripad Ramanujacharya. For him to get the mantra, he went to his guru, I believe 17 times. He went to his guru 17 times, and the guru would refuse, saying that not qualified. And then finally Ramanujacharya said that if you don't give me the mantra, I'll give up my body. So then the guru, and I don't remember the name of the guru now. Ramanujacharya had several gurus, mostly Shiksha gurus, and the guru then understood that Ramanujacharya had that level of purity. So he gave him he made him take a vow that he will not reveal this mantra to somebody who is not qualified, and then he gave him the mantra. So when Ramanujacharya was reciting the mantra, he was feeling so much ecstasy. He was feeling direct contact with Lord Vishnu, and he did not even go back to his house. He stopped there, and he went on the top of a temple, and he started telling everybody the mantra, which is Om Namo Narayana. And when the guru heard about it, so somebody has told me the name of the guru is Thiru Koshtirur Nambi. Okay.
Tirukostiyur Nambi, Prabhu. Tirukostiyur Nambi.
Tirukostiyur Nambi. So when the guru heard about it, he was furious. And he called Ramanujacharya and he said that, why did you do it? This is a direct disobedience of the order of your guru. And do you know what what happens? You will rot in hell for eternity. And Ramanujacharya said, I'm willing to rot in hell for eternity, but I would like these people in this age of Kali to get an opportunity to make spiritual advancements. And of course, then his guru was happy with it. So to that, we are of course not at the stage of Ramanujacharya by a long stretch, but that to some extent is the Vaishnav prevailing mood, that we take more risks on behalf of Krishna than the Vedas permit us. The Hare Krishna Maha Mantra is a Vedic mantra. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared, then he switched Krishna and Ram and said it is Vedic, but it is not Vedic. So it is okay to give it to everybody, whether the person is qualified or not. So essentially, we reflect the same Audharya, the same mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Srila Prabhupada would allow Gaur-Nitai deities to be given to houses where even intoxication and meat eating was going on, because he said that otherwise they have no hope for them. But Gaur-Nitai is merciful. By their presence in the house, they will make spiritual advancement. So this is them, Srila Prabhupada, taking risks on behalf, putting his own life at stake in order to help the people in general. So that was your first question. Is that okay, Hemanath Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu, Hare Krishna, Prabhu. The second question is like, we have in ISKCON Brahmins initiation, not many going through the, like even the capable of going through the basic understanding of Bharadeva Vidya Bhushan's commentary on Vedanta Sutra. So like we don't impose any kind of such this thing.
Right. So there are a couple of thoughts that come to me in response to this. One is that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he himself was not very, of course he preceded Baldev Vidyabhushan, but he did not encourage a commentary on the Vedanta Sutras, because the Bhagavatam is a commentary on the Vedanta Sutras. So Govind Bhasya, which is Baldev Vidyabhushan's commentary, came later on, and more because there was a conflict with the Smarta Brahmans and the other Sampradayas, and they went to the king and they said that unless you have a commentary on the Vedanta Sutras, your practices will not be considered to be bona fide, so you cannot worship in the temple. I forget the name of the deity of the temple, but the deity was an opulent deity, and the king was a Vaishnava. But he also did not want to offend the Smarta Brahmins, who were powerful. So then he invited Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur was old at the time, so he sent Baldev Vidyabhushan, and Baldev Vidyabhushan wrote Govind Bhasya, even though they also understood the mood of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that Srimad Bhagavatam is the commentary of on the Vedanta Sutras. And Prabhupada did make this as one of the highly recommended things, that one should read the Bhagavatam, or at least the first 6 cantos of the Bhagavatam on the way to Brahman initiation. It's not followed. Different gurus have different standards, but by and large, it is recommended, but it is not mandated. And my understanding is that the same principle of mercy is prevalent over there, that the guru sees that the disciple is sincere and wants to worship the deities, wants to take on more Brahmanical activities. So they give them the Gayatri mantra, and it allows them to increase the service. So by and large, in this age of Kali, we are mostly operating on the principle of mercy. Very few of us have the qualifications, one way or the other, whether we look at it from a Vedic perspective or even from the Vaishnava perspective. Very few of us have the qualifications to be going onto the altar and worshipping the deities, or so to speak, even chanting the holy name. We have so many contaminations, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is there, and sweeter than Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Srila Prabhupada. So he made concessions. He is a founder Acharya. So we understand that founder Acharyas are empowered to make concessions. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur expected his Harinam initiatees to chant 64 rounds. Srila Prabhupada adjusted that to 16 rounds. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur did not allow his women disciples to take Brahman initiation. They would not do deity worship. Srila Prabhupada did do that. So we understand again that it's not that he did not know what the scriptures, or he's openly challenging the scriptures, but because he's a position of being especially close to Krishna and his Guru Maharaj, he is allowing us more access to the mercy.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Thanks for the answer.
Thank you. So we are actually exactly at 9:30. So we'll end over here. And once again, I would humbly request for the participants to maintain some kind of just make sure that if you are in a surrounding that is noisy, if you can mute your phone. There are different ways to mute it, and ideally speaking, I would request you to basically participate in this in a mood of meditation, and that would help you get the most out of it. So I'll end over here. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande. Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna.
Thanks.